I'm Bill.
And I'm Candace. And we're the Disruptors.
Today we're going to disrupt the whole world of social media.
Oh, I like that.
Does that sound fun?
Welcome to the show, Mr. Producer Man.
Well, thank you very much.
That's right. We're at the Wild Child Studios today, and we're going to talk about Facebook.
Dum, dum, dum.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Here we go. We are so excited. As you know, Facebook has run into a little bit of a controversy. The leader, and I'm going to call him Mr. Facebook because he is the face of social media, Mr. Zuckerberg. It's very interesting in how people have sat down with him and in Congress, in fact, and never quite got any answers when he was asked about selling, shall we say, for political reasons, names, addresses, and a whole bunch of habits that we have that they explore on Facebook. Now, you probably didn't know that they explore what's going on, but they can pretty well figure out what we like to buy, our age group, if we're a Republican or Democrat, and the list goes on and on and on.
Do you know where they get all that from?
You need to come up closer.
Yeah, we got to move we have him out in the car in the parking lot. We're going to bring him in.
Yeah.
Do you know where part of that information comes from? Our cell phones.
Absolutely.
When you put Messenger on your cell phone, they have the right to everything that's on your cell phone.
That's right. You do not own the contacts. That's it. The content is theirs.
Yeah.
Your text messages, your photos. Well, and one of the things, please correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, wasn't part of the things that they were getting upset about, the government, was that Facebook utilizes your video content, so they would log into people's video and watch them and their expressions while they were logged into Facebook.
Correct.
And they didn't know. The people
had no idea.
They didn't know, hey,
watched.
You're now being monitored by Facebook.
And the whole reason for all this is the cash flow of being able to sell this information to governments, to politicians, to marketing, and the list goes on. Now, the European community is fed up. They're done. They've decided now to look into it and have come up with some really ugly accusations claiming that Facebook is to the point now where they can practically stage a revolution in a country simply by the social media presence of Facebook. I think Egypt was the first area that we saw a little bit of controversy. They've discovered that ISIS and all of the wonderful people out there that don't like us are using that to move communications from one spot to another to their dead cells or whatever you want to call them.
They're dead cells.
As far as I'm concerned.
Sleeper cells.
They're sleeper. Oh, pardon me, all
sleeper.
The pieces. I was wishing.
Wake up.
But it's a big, nasty ball of controversy. Now, the European market and legislation have decided now that they have to draw a line. Your privacy has to be now enforced.
Well, and you know what? Once again, don't hate the player, hate the game. There was never really any solid guidelines. And for him to be able to, for Facebook to be able to institute all of that,
there hasn't been.
There wasn't anything set in place, as far as I know of, in the world for you to say, okay, you don't have access, you cannot do this, this, and this. So all that they've done is create a completely different conversation by pushing the envelope and seeing what they could get away with. And the fact of the matter is that, he's the goose that laid the golden egg in regards that he pushed the envelope and now Now people are excited and upset because, he didn't act responsible. So, and he sat there and he lied, did he not?
Yes.
He lied to Congress, yes.
Okay, so that's fraud.
Well,
Yes,
of course it is.
It is.
And the problem that we have now is you have a social media giant. Let's face it, nobody's ever come close to what he's done on social media. He was the first. You have the other problem is that the internet is not regulated. Our podcasts are not regulated by the FCC. So we can talk about whatever we want to without any recourse coming back from the government.
Sure. Because
we're not controlled by the government. Whereas AM and FM radio is regulated by the FCC. I think that you'll find, if you go back even a little bit further, Howard Stearns is the grandfather that threw the podcasting world together simply because he got fired and fined so many times he quit. And Sirius Radio, I guess it was at that time, picked him up because there is no way of stopping him from the outlandish garbage that he presented out there. Now we have the same thing in the internet with Mr. Facebook, our buddy, because you're right, there is no barriers out there. The thing that upsets me is, and he knows this works, if you watch the early editorial or YouTubes about when they started Facebook, he admitted he wanted to push the line. He's always wanted to push. And to this day, they're pushing the line. So to him, making out with his $1,250 an hour lawyers that are hiding under a conference table somewhere telling him what to say, putting together those guidelines that we Americans and the rest of the world do not read, that states what he's up to when we sign on and agree to their terms. That starts it. And he knows that. And he pushes it.
Well, nobody reads the agreements.
Absolutely not.
Okay, I don't know of anybody.
Nobody.
Actually, that's not true. I do know of one, and they work in ethics.
And that's about it.
Yes.
The rest of the population, it's free. They get on there. Oh, I'm so excited because Harry's on here.
They just don't realize what they're agreeing to.
No, they check it off and they never read it.
Well, I'd like to see those agreements actually come up where it's just bullet pointed. You are agreeing
to
in
this,
simple
this,
language.
This and this.
You know, not needing to not for the common person to have to hire a $1,200 attorney. To be able to understand what they're actually agreeing to. This gives us access to all of your private information, your GPS locations. This gives us access to, blah, blah,
your
blah,
life
blah.
is now ready for social media, and they can
show
it any way they want to.
That creates an opportunity for easy fraud to happen. It
Absolutely.
creates, is it bad business or easy fraud? I think it's easy fraud.
Very much so.
Because they're able to gather that information and fraudulently put out something that, because who has the time to read a 28-hour, agreement in print that's so small that,
you can hardly see it.
You can't read it.
But there's no law that says that he has to do that, and they know that. I think in the world of business, to be honest, and to solve problems, not create them, which he's done, you would think that they would break it down so that you could read it and understand it.
No, but they don't want you to understand.
That's correct.
Well, that's because
and they don't want you to read it. That's why they make it so long.
Well, and you're dipping into their honeypot, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, they are selling. That's what he's the whole person why we had to on your websites have the GDPR posted.
That's correct.
And he's the reason why we've had to change some things as to how we do business, just digitally. So,
and the digital market of business is big business. And then you stop and analyze the political aspect of it. Now, we had this Russian thing with our president, and he's in collusion with the
but they were never able to prove that. Isn't
but
that
they
correct?
couldn't prove it.
So
no.
for 3 years, they've done a proctology exam, and I don't care Republican, Democrat. I don't care about any of the political structure. The bottom line is, third parties have they not come out and said he's okay?
Absolutely. They haven't proved anything.
I'm so tired of hearing about it.
The problem is that
it's
such a great place for bad news to begin with, because you can get on there and do whatever you want to do.
That's a good way of putting that, Bill.
Yeah.
Just real bad news.
So what's going on with Facebook then? What else is happening? Are they being fined?
Okay, well,
charged,
what's happening now is that in California, the Securities Department with the FBI is now looking into all
FBI.
With the FBI and the Attorney General are going through all aspects of their contracts, any leads they have, anything that needs to be investigated over the factor that they are selling that public information, or they are using digital marketing by looking into your life and taking your privacy away from you.
I would think people would be leaving Facebook at an epic amount of numbers.
The numbers are so far, no, unfortunately. Now, the younger generation from 0 to 25, which hurt his market to begin with, but it only slumped for about 6 months, have migrated to Snapchat or somewhere else because they want fast action and they don't care about politics or any of that other stuff. The next group that is kind of stuck in it is the grandma group, I call them. Those are people that I can't wait to see my kid. Line one, I think it's Mr. Facebook calling now to the show. So we're going to have the producer run over to the phone and talk to Mr. Muckelberg about our terrible show that he thinks is awful. The reason I think that we go through this is really quite simple. I think that I, without a doubt, believe in my own mind.
Okay, so Bill, tell us what's going on.
Well, I think the first thing we have to look at is, first of all, this fines now that is going on. The FCC has wavered. They're not going to get involved because they can't, actually. But in California, the FBI is getting involved. The Securities Commission is getting involved. And some other of the representatives, like the Attorney General's office, is now involved in the investigation to find out if they are selling the information for political reasons or what they're doing with the information. Now, we're finding that the state of Washington and the United States, Washington has made up their mind as of yet. I know that the government itself, if they get this put together, which they are pretty sure they can do under the law, the fine for that's going to run about $1 billion. The European market is already up to, in our standards of money, up to right around $1 billion in assessments and fees.
But what will change in how he does business?
It is the first thing. CNN and all the guys that are on it for business, Forbes and the rest of them,
right,
are saying the first thing that they have to do, the investors have to put pressure on the management to clean up. Now, the last statement that came out last week from Mr. Muckelberg was simply
Muckelberg, it's Zuckerberg.
I'm changing his name to protect myself.
But then people don't know who you're talking about.
Okay, well, Mr. Facebook, the object being now is that he wants to change the policy, and he said, and I quote, it is an imperative that Facebook draw the line in the sand and tighten up these problems. Now, the only reason I believe that he said that is simply because he's trying to, hide the fact that he's guilty. The producer here, by the way, folks, is cleaning the air. It'll be just a moment. We run a very clean show here. It's raining in the studios here at the Wild Child Network. Yeah. The thing that I think is very interesting over this whole thing is if the brains of these organizations like CNN are right, then the only thing that they can do to save and to keep the actual investors from going haywire and selling out and dumping is that they put a blanket over the top of Mark's head after putting on, I would say, Gorilla Tape on his lips, something that will hold on for a while.
I'm like a little Gorilla Glue.
A little Gorilla Glue on his face, and put him in a dark, cold room, and then weld the door shut.
What in the
because
first
they're
place?
going to have to. Let's think back 15 years ago. Google. What was the first 3 years problem of Google? It was the CEO. His idea of how he was going to operate the company and everything got to be such a chaotic mess that the board had to, even though the man's brilliant, which there's no doubt he is, they had to put in a pro tem CEO and silence the other gentleman, the actual founder of Google, to get the company back on a good, solid track with the investors, to get the growth going and to watch, because you're in a gray area out here. There is, as you've said already, there is no boundaries. There is no rules. So you're in a gray area. So you gotta really be a diplomat.
Well, it's a modern day Wild West.
Absolutely. And
Tumbleweed goes by.
You don't have Wyatt Earp.
Hi.
We don't have, a Wyatt Earp anymore. But it's just, if putting this all together is going to make a big difference. And if financially, will they be able to hold out?
Well, I think it's opened up the door for identity theft and a whole bunch of other things. And first of all, what even in any world, we're driven right by the almighty dollar, right?
Absolutely.
The greed of money. Welcome to capitalism, which is alive and well here in the United States, which Hey, that's business, but there's a big difference between doing good business and fraudulent business.
And I feel he's been